Absolute Knicks streets. The streets are buzzing. The Knicks get back to winning ways in Portland, man. 11 games over 500 now. And this one was a gritty affair with Josh Hart returning, man, giving the Knicks a major boost. OG Anunoby drilling some key threes late, and Mitchell Robinson dominating the glass as the Knicks locked in and got key stops in this one. Right, a feel-good win, and this is going to carry us for the rest of the road trip. Fam, let's break it all down. Salute to the chat. Salute replay squad. Josh Hart, man, great to have you back. And he was lively, knocking threes down early and ball handling, pushing the pace. And my biggest takeaway, fam, in this one is the Knicks just looked a lot more steady, right? A lot faster, and the ball movement was back with a bang. Big time effort in this one. Shout out to everyone in the building. Shez V, Tendrell, Chris Gotti, Lonnie Meeks, Elliot. What's good, Knicks family? We feeling good. And we obviously have Sacktown, Golden State to conclude the West Coast trip, man. We could be, hopefully 3-1 as we head back to New York after the two. It's a back-to-back on Wednesday, Thursday, but the Knicks will have 2 days rest right now. But big time effort. I think obviously the Knicks were leading most of the game, but it was a close game. It was back and forth. Portland with some athletes, they were pushing the break, but the Knicks were up for it, fam, and controlled the glass. But 2 key threes from OG Anunoby on a night where Deuce McBride, uncharacteristically couldn't really find his stroke. Deuce McBride, man, was big time. So OG Anunoby was big time when Deuce wasn't able to hit, right? But Brunson, obviously his 8 assists, man, he was big time as well. Not one of his biggest games offensively, but I thought Brunson really dug deep and gritted it on the defensive side. Mikal Bridges was better, getting some deflections and was playing a little bit more physical. But I thought our bigs, man, Mitchell Robinson especially in the paint, as we're going to look at the numbers, the Knicks won the rebounding. And normally when we do, win the rebounding, we win the ball game, ladies and gentlemen. And OG Anunoby getting one of his steals, pushing it to Deuce on the break. Lonnie says the move was bringing Mitch in the fourth quarter. No Kolek in this one, like Elliot says, no Yabusele. We're going to talk about some possible trades coming up, right? And what the Knicks are going to do with the two-way spot that's open too, but 2 consecutive DNPs, or I think might be 3 now for Yabusele, right? Looks like there could be something on the horizon. We'll talk about that. We'll give out the game ball, continue to shout you guys out, fam, and roll these highlights. I think Portland did a lot to try to take us out of our spots. They zone, as you see, they trapped Brunson right there, but the ball movement was good. And just having another ball handler out there, obviously no Kolek, but Hart was just super steady. For a guy that's missed, 8 games, I believe Hart's missed. We looked a lot more steady, man, and we needed Hart. Obviously, we lost some gritty, close games that we shouldn't have lost. We got blown out also against Detroit. We really miss Hart. And like New York City Gray says, man, Hart is back too. D. Grant says, who won, man? Knicks won, ladies and gentlemen. Knicks won, pulled it out, 123 to 114. Right, so it ended up being 9 points in the end. But our New York Knicks, won it on the offensive side, back to our identity, pushing the break, fast break buckets, getting stops, getting out on the break, and getting it done, right? We're going to give out the game ball in a minute, but look, a better performance from Mikal Bridges. Obviously, he'd been getting a lot of criticism, especially the last loss in Phoenix, right? Ducking, shirking contact. Missed a big dunk that I think was a really frustrating, play tonight. But with the threes, man, they were going down early, and I think that set the tone. This was a Rucker Park affair. It was back and forth. Teams couldn't really miss. Danny Advida Caleb Love and Shadon Sharp were the big catalyst for Portland as well. Not a great defensive performance early in the game, but I did think the Knicks buckled down and really, showed their defense late in the fourth quarter, man, to get enough stops, right? And JB, as we're going to pull up the box score in a minute, he'll get the game ball, ladies and gentlemen. 10 of 19, 3 of 9 from downtown, 3 of 3 from the free throw, with 6 rebounds, 8 assists, a steal, just 2 turnovers, a plus 18 team high, 26 points. Lead scorer, Jalen Brunson, in 36 minutes, man. Phenomenal performance from JB. 6 rebounds, 8 dimes, and 10 of 19 on efficiency. Not excellent from 3, but 33%. But the plus 18 was big time. And they tried to take advantage, but JB was physical and he was up for it. We're going to, sing our praises, give out the grades for the other guys. But in the spotlight, man, some key decisions made tonight that paid off in the end, right? Josh Hart, straight in, man, and he picked up where he left off, man. What a game from Josh Hart. But the decision from Mike Brown to not play Kolek was eye-raising early, and I wasn't feeling it, but it ended up working out because we had that extra ball handler with size with Josh Hart. But look, I do think Mike Brown's rotations are bipolar this season. I do think Kolek, I don't think it means he's not going to see any minutes, but I do think his minutes are going to go back to situational, depending on the opponent. I think Portland are very long, they're very physical, and this just could have been a matchup where Mike Brown didn't want to go more extended. But I hopefully do feel like Kolek is still going to factor in. Obviously, we're going to have Landry Shamet back real soon. We've got an update for y'all, and that is Landry Shamet, ladies and gentlemen, has been officially cleared for contact. So our guy, Sham God, Landry Shamet's going to be back in an instant too, fam. He might be back in the next one, maybe right after this West Coast trip, possibly. He's probably got to practice a couple of times, but he's been fully cleared now to take contact too. Johnny Cheeba's in the house, says, great Knicks win. Yeah, team win. And the heart of the Knicks made all the difference, man. Swiss Army knife. He's the super glue. And he's just a guy that, I was saying this, man. It wasn't just the grit, the defense, and the size that Hart would provide, but it's mainly the ball handling, just another outlet, bringing the ball up, super fast break, turbocharged. Brunson can take a couple of possessions off. I mean, it's just big time to have a player like Hart back on this team. And we'll talk about it, as Elliot says here, no Kolek, no Yabu. And Chris Gotti's, wondering why the no Kolek. It was just simply because Hart returned and Mike Brown just decided that, he didn't want to go too extended in this one. Dermot says D and threes. That was a big key in this one. You see one of these plays, Hart getting the strip, getting the steal, getting the floor burns. What a throw out, a leak out to JB to get that fast break bucket, right? He's a one-man wrecking crew as Josh Hart reaches in. He's just a savvy player, experienced, another veteran leader out there, man. And I can't wait to get Landry Shamet back too, fam. Let's close this West Coast trip out strong with 2 days rest now. Landry could get in a couple of practices. He might be good to go, right? Sacramento look like food to me right now, and then Golden State aren't playing real well. So we'll probably see Kolek in this back-to-back. If Mike Brown is smart with this back-to-back, maybe we go all out in Sacktown, and then we extend our rotation against Golden State, right? And then I want that revenge against Phoenix, headed back to MSG. Then we have Dallas, Brooklyn, fam. And we're going to preview those guys. And I continue to shout it out. Hart makes the Knicks work. Mr. Swiss Army Knife, says Mr. Nixon. Key 11 says, yeah, team win with your highest paid player on the bench in a crucial last 5 minutes. I think, yeah, Mike Brown's always willing to, to switch things up. I would have liked to see Kolek, um, but yeah, Brunson, sat a bit longer. He didn't come in until later. But Deuce McBride and the other guys, you see, Deuce was +1, Mitch was +11. Diawara got some scrappy minutes early in the first half, but Clarkson, 1 of 6 from downtown, man, he struggled in this one, -7. So, yeah, unlucky was Kolek. Good to see Diawara get in a little bit of minutes. I think Mike Brown said earlier in the season he wants to continue to try to push Diawara in wherever he can. But I do think it's a lot of lineup, matchup dependent as well. Portland is so long, man. Denny Advid is like 6'9", 6'10", super physical when he's driving to the lane and putting his shoulder down, you know, seeking that contact, fam. You know, there's been a lot going on around the league with Jaylen Brown of Boston, Denny Advid are two getting into it. You know, Mike, Tari Eason calling out Denny Advidar as well for getting to the foul line too much, and Denny Advidar clapping back saying I'm physical, and I seek that contact. That's what we need from our wings, fam. And Josh Hart is probably outside of OG Anunoby, Hart is that other wing that doesn't duck contact. Man, he'll go straight at it. A couple of times he challenged Donovan Clingan of Portland, and Clingan got the best of him, got the block. But you got to continue to stay aggressive, man. You got to keep going at the shot blocker, and look at that read from Hart. Could have looked at the basket then, a little bit unselfish, but kicked it out, and the ball just continues to move. And the Knicks had 14 assists at the half, and the New York Knicks finished with 32 dimes, 32 assists, and they were up 5 at the half. So this was a game where they led most of the night, although it was a lot closer than you would expect. Portland are gritty. They welcome back Drew Holiday in this one. But Mikal Bridges, right? We've given Jalen Brunson the game ball. We're going to talk a little bit about Bridges because, he bounced back 8 of 15, 2 of 7 from downtown's not great. But I like the 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block, right? Plus 18 points, right? That's a stat line of a guy that you traded 5 first-round picks for, ladies and gentlemen. Not the other night and the struggles. In 34 minutes, man, if we're getting 18 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 4 stocks, way to go, Mikal Bridges. A much better performance, right? I thought Karl Anthony Towns, too, deserves a shout-out because he was under more control in this one. 9 of 13, man. How often do we see Karl Anthony Towns that efficient, you know? And better shot distribution and selection out there with the ball zipping around. And look, we already know that as a guard, Hart is one of our best screeners, fam. You see him and Brunson at the top of the key, right? He slips. He slips the screen. Brunson goes around the corner with his left. And it's things like that that just frees up Jalen Brunson to do what he does best, fam. And he get 2 feet into the paint on that occasion. Now, that could have easily been a dribble handoff to Josh Hart. He would have been right around the corner in that one. So that is a great example, this play, of what we've been missing with Josh Hart at the top of the key, man. He really is a combo guard, in my opinion, with his ability to play make. Michael Drake, shout out, salute, says, great to have, so happy Hart is back. Johnny Chiba wants to shout out Danny Advidar. He's a special player. Yeah, great props. He's been playing at a super high level, and I was worried about him coming in to tonight. Johnny Chiba also says CT Knicks get wing stop involved. They win. They don't. Everyone hates on Bridges. Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with the not taking games off with Bridges. Yeah, he can play soft sometimes, but I do think, he's probably being a little bit too unselfish trying to play every game, man, or selfish to that degree. Sometimes he needs to sit down and have a rest, play Diawara a little bit more. Now with Hart back, we'll see. But we all know that Macau doesn't want to, lose that playing streak. He wants to play every single night. But you know, um, usually he does bounce back after a bad performance. It's just we want to see that consistency, right? Teams against Detroit, teams that take away what we like to do. Um, Macau Bridges' ability to be aggressive is what we want. Uh, if there's one specific stretch in a Nick Uni that Macau Bridges has played, I want to go back all the way back to the playoff series against Boston, and where Macau Bridges took over in that fourth. Y'all remember that? Where the Knicks pulled out that gritty win, where Macau Bridges took over in the fourth and was just pseudo aggressive. Right, that's the Macau Bridges I want to see all the time. Right, he needs to play like Jalen Brunson isn't out there, and just the team needs him. Because I tell you what, you always see Hart play like that. I mean, when Hart's out there, he plays like Brunson ain't out there. He's just like, to hell, I'm not deferring to nobody. And sometimes it's a bit out of control. That's what you get with Josh Hart. But you need that. This team needs that. They need a guy with no conscience. They need a guy that is not going to defer to anyone. Get aggressive, put your head down, also swing the ball. And Hart will do that. He is a lightning rod, lightning bolt, and he is a fire starter, ladies and gentlemen. The Hart starter in this thing. And shout out to Mike Brown. No minutes restriction, fam. So we can reveal to y'all there is no minutes restriction from Josh Hart. First game back in 30 minutes. This is what we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. And we pulled out the gritty win. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say we don't win this ball game if we are playing like we were previously with Hart out. Right. Look at that crazy production. The 4 turnovers, but the 18 points, 6 assists, 2 steals and a block. 3 of 5 from downtown, right? He shot better than Miles McBride tonight, way better than Deuce McBride, way better than Clarkson, right? So Hart, as they spoke on the broadcast, MSG Network, shout out to Discount Double Check Steve Novak on the call as well with Breen. They talked about Hart continuing to work on his jumper and on these off days when he was injured, he was still working on that jump shot. And it's still looking pretty nice so far. 3 of 5, too. He did make them pay, because they did leave him open. But yeah, no hesitation, and he was willing to pull the trigger early, man. And we got those threes down early, man. This was my play of the game, man. It was early in the ball game, but like Johnny Chiba said about Wingstop, look, Brunson not out there. OG, what a lob to Mitchell Robinson. And then the other jam to OG being aggressive, playing under control. Yep, that one JB was out there. But yeah, that was a good play. OG getting downhill, top of the key, right? I want to see actually OG a lot more at the top. Most of the time OG's on the elbow or on the, on the corners. But we all know OG's passing is good. And he's aggressive getting to the basket like that, man. Get out of the way. He'll usually get the foul call, or also he can pull up in that situation. You like him being aggressive, making Denny Advida work on the defensive side. That's what I think the Knicks got to do better at, to target the other team's best offensive player and make them work on the defensive side. Yeah, Danny Advida is gonna go crazy on the other side, but put him in these actions. Mitchell Robinson there finding some love from OG. You love to see that too. In the nick of time, man. This is Josh Hart's Madison Square Garden. As D. Grant says, of course Josh Hart going to show up against his former team. Man. Mikal Bridges likes playing against Portland as well. It's a happy hunting field for us, a happy hunting arena. As New York City Grays also says, yeah, Bridges took over 2 successive possessions in the fourth against Boston. You love to see that aggression too. Just get to his spots and not defer, but better screen setting with Josh Hart out there. Buzzer beater, this road trip should be advantageous for us. We should have beat Phoenix, fam. wasn't able to, to really dissect that. Had some schedule conflicts, but we're all good for the road ahead. But the Phoenix loss, I think there was just a lot of sloppiness. One of Brunson's worst games, man, down the stretch, and I do think probably Portland are an even better defensive team, and we just look so much better with Josh Hart out there. But Brunson just had no one else that he could really feed off because Mitty wasn't aggressive. Brunson was sloppy, man. Jump passing, throwing the ball away, and they were smothering him down the stretch. But yeah, the floor spacing was so much better. You see, those are the shots that I want to see Karl Anthony Towns take, man. Not too contested. Um, Great feed from Brunson there. And really taking it to Robert Williams in that one, man. He doesn't want to come out there on an island, right? And also, Cat ain't too far back. That was perfect in rhythm, catch and shoot. And yeah, Cat knocked down a couple of shots early, and I thought, yeah, Cat's going to have a good game. You kind of know when Cat's going to have an awful game or a okay game or a bad game. Um, and I felt like, yeah, Cat was playing calm. He was under control early. Got a little bit out of control for a small stretch when Brunson was off, trying to drive to the left. But just 27 minutes. So let's really key in on these minutes allocation now, fam. With Hart back in, how does that impact the other guys? So you see Cat, right, down to 27. Bridges down to 34. Brunson played 36, which is ideal. Ideal, maybe 35, 34 is ideal for me. Deuce played 35. Deuce played 35 minutes. So that is a bit of a surprise. I guess with Kolek out, we got Hart back in, but Bridges' minutes went up. Mitch played a solid 25, and he was a plus 11, man. So impactful was Mitchy tonight, man. 11 rebounds, 6 offensive, man, against Kling Kong. Donovan Clingan he's a man mountain, but so is Mitchell Robinson. And they both had a block party tonight. Mitch with 3 blocks was plus 11 and got 6 points. Didn't get to the foul line though, did Mitch? But the 6 points is key. I would love to see Mitch in the double-double range. Mitch should be getting more than 10 points. A couple of times he grabs a rebound, obviously kicks it back out. That helps the assists. But Mitch normally misses out on some of those easier buckets, but plays very unselfish, but able to get on the end of some of those lobs, which was good to see. And a plus 11 rebounds, man. Cat also with 11 rebounds. And as I bring up the stats, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Knicks won the glass in this one, 51 to 47. So, like I said, the assists were up, second chance points. We had 8 more assists, a huge cut down on the turnovers as well. We had 18 turnovers, I think, in Phoenix, right? Just 12 turnovers tonight. We forced 15, right? The Knicks won the second chance points, man, 16 to 7. That's a 9-point advantage with the second chance points, right? And the fast break points, Portland were the better by 7, but the points in the paint, Knicks won 56 to 50. Shot a lot better from downtown, 37% is great as a team from downtown. Portland only shot 30% too. Knicks were 50% from the field as well overall. Got the 7 blocks, 11 steals, and 32 assists, man. If you can win the rebounding, you get over 30 assists, over 10 steals, and over 7 blocks with just 12 turnovers. You're probably going to win most of the games, right? This should have been a lot more comfortable, in my opinion, but the Knicks turned on the Jets, late to pull it out. And yeah, like I said earlier, I think this is going to set us up for a nice run home in this West Coast trip, fam. Sacramento right now, they're struggling. Zach LaVine and DeRozan on the trade block. Are the Knicks going to go in for Keon Ellis? We'll talk about that coming up. AP, the streets are buzzing. Great to see you here. Buzzer beater says it, man. What a lot of Knicks fans are thinking right now. I didn't think Hart was that important to our success, but now I know. Uh, I just think it's not as much as just Hart. It's also the skills he provides, in terms of like, if Diawara can improve his handling and playmaking, I think that'll help a lot as well. I think we've just been really missing another outlet who can push the ball up the court and help Brunson be off the ball. Because that's how our offense was getting slowed down, against Detroit and against Phoenix, some of these other teams, with Brunson just getting out of whack. If you slow down the head of the snake, who else is there to handle the ball, really? Deuce ain't a handler. McCall, OG ain't, they ain't great ball handlers. And it was no coincidence all our best minutes with Hart out were with Kolek on the floor. Either Kolek by himself with Cat or Kolek with Brunson, just because he was just that other ball handler that could make things happen. But you see, yeah, Hart's impact fully now on both sides, fam, now that he's really been out. And I don't think really anyone's really going to be getting too down on Hart, right? He is exactly what this team needs. Yeah, like New York City brings up, man. Appreciate ya rocking, and you guys are buzzing. Hart says, New York City says, we all see Hart's triple doubles, but few appreciate his intensity. To He enforces his will on games. These are the intangibles. 110%. You saw him getting floor burns and getting strips as well, making teams feel his physicality too. As we're going to look ahead now and talk about also some potential targets heating up now. The Knicks having interest in Jose Alvarado per James L. Edwards of The Athletic. Too, his feistiness is another, another quality that I think this team could be looking for, the front office too. Now, successive DNPs for Yabu, Pacome Dardier, apparently being shopped on the block as well. So we will talk about that coming up. Dink Pate continues to shoot lights out from Westchester, ladies and gentlemen. I think he's, really begging for that call up for a two-way spot that's open right now. And I do think the Knicks are waiting for the dominoes to fall in terms of trades, consolidation, maybe McCullough. Buzzer Beater was saying in the comments that he's hearing that McCullough is moving towards the regular roster spot, which will free up another two-way. So you'd have to think Dink Pate got to get a two-way, man. Maybe even they want to, give Dink Pate an opportunity to get more than a two-way. As we can also sign the 15th man quite soon, ladies and gentlemen. If we can sell Yabu and Dardier and get our salary number down, that'll also open up an opportunity for potential 15th man to get signed right away. Now, I don't have all the numbers and the dates locked in just yet, but obviously if we can get Yabu's money off with Dardier, and like I said, get that number down, that means we could also not only bring in some players, but also maybe add the 15th guy as well. But look, yeah, I'm really surprised we didn't really see Kolek in this one. I would love to see Hart play with Kolek, but it's just one game back. So I'm going to pump the brakes in terms of an overreaction. I do think we got to see how this continues to look, fam, for the rest of the West Coast trip. Now we buy ourselves a little bit of separation, but no Boston and no Detroit play. They don't play today. So I think they'll get after it tomorrow. The Knicks will have 2 days rest, but good opportunity to really put some separation if we can beat Sacramento, Golden State, Phoenix back at home for some revenge. AP says, CT, I'm still worried about the defense. I am as well, fam. I do think that's our Achilles. With the fast-paced action, we are outscoring teams, but it don't mean our defense is good enough right now. We need to still improve. I do think Hart is helpful in terms of using his physicality. he's not our best perimeter defender by any means, but he's just another guy that is a solid defender. I think I would call Hart a solid defender, um, but he's not lockdown. So I do expect the Jose Alvarado thing to continue to grow, and dare I say, I think there's a high chance that that can happen depending on, you know, the moving parts and the teams coming to that agreement. But yeah, it looks like Yabu and Dardier, looks like they've both played their last games as a New York Knick. Uh, Now, there's no word that any trade is imminent, but, you know, I do think in the coming weeks, you know, we'll definitely see some activity. Buzzer says, CT, how would you rate the Knicks utilizing the pick and roll with Towns and Brunson? Uh, I want to see more of it still, fam, but I do think we're seeing a little bit more, and I want to see more, though, um, especially the screen setting and freeing up Cat for just the catch and shoot, the pick and pops. Uh, I actually want to see more pick and pop with Cat rather than pick and roll, if I'm being honest, because I still don't trust Cat. I still don't trust Cat putting the ball on the deck. You know what I mean? It's a train wreck at times. You know, it probably results in a turnover or a miss at least 50% of the time. And so I would rather Cat making snappy decisions, back to the basket, quick jump hook, or a quick feed. And also that quick feed that Cat found Mitchie under the basket was another great feed where Mitch got, you know, one of his buckets as well, fam, which was key. So I love Cat moving the ball quickly, catching and shooting quickly, more of that rather than pick and rolling per se. Because look, teams sag back, and with Cat, you know, if he's trying to roll, he's going to run into traffic, fam. So hopefully that answers your question, fam. I love the pick and pop more than that. um, AP says Dink looks good, but the team still doesn't win. Yeah, look, Westchester Knicks in terms of overall talent, they're lacking in terms of a lot of other G League squads, but in terms of squad talent, but the upper end talent for the Westchester Knicks, like Dink, Donovan Williams, Bryce, as well, um, Bryce Warren, you know, those guys are really putting up points. You know, those guys are really putting up a lot of points. But I do think Dink Pate's just so young. You know, he's 19, and the talent is there. I think worth taking that gamble, you know, and bringing him up. Well, I don't even think it's a gamble. Just get him on a two-way so that nobody else can take him from us, fam. Um, so yeah, the Knicks shoot 50% from the field, 37% from downtown, 32 assists, only 12 turnovers. So yeah, we look a lot more like Knicks basketball, baby. Is Knicks basketball back from earlier in the season? Let's get on a run, man. Maybe we had our little dip, and hopefully we all the way back up, fam. We'd love to see a 5-game winning streak, man. Put that NBA Cup hangover talk to bed right now because we're getting more healthy. That's what I always said, man. We just need health, man. We are super deep. Look, when you talk about when Landry gets back, all of a sudden Kolek is a luxury that is out of the rotation, but we all know that he's good enough to play now. So now we know we can go 10, 11, maybe 12 deep with McCullough, Diawara deserving some opportunities, Trey Gem as well. Now, you know, we'll see what happens with the trade deadline as well. You know, Yabu really ain't factoring in this season too much, and neither is Dardier. So if we can bring in some veteran help, I mean, we'll be able to go 13, you know, 14 deep on some occasions, and maybe we can just go more matchup dependent. Uh, like, yeah, on that note, you know, like Buzzerbeater says, you know, we could possibly have McCullough, Pate, and another player added to the permanent roster if we get rid of Yabu and Dardier. Yep. And we could also add the 15th guy when the prorated salaries go below, and we can fit under the second apron. Damn. I do think at the age McCullough is, he was already on the two-way last season. I do think, you know, you definitely got to find some room for him if you like what you see. You know, if you think McCullough is worth keeping around for next season, you got to get him off of the two-way and let him get some playoff experience. Pate, I'd be okay for this season on a two-way because he's still young enough, and he's still a guy that should be playing a lot more in Westchester still, but at least a team wouldn't be able to take him off our hands. Uh, but yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by Dink Pate's 3-point shooting, man. The guy is shooting unbelievable clip from downtown. Um, and like Old says, man, Pate needs to bulk up. Yeah, there's still a lot of development in him. Whereas I do think that McCullough is more NBA ready. Obviously, he's 24 going on 25 in March, Sam. So Kolek and McCullough will both turn 25 in March when they both have their birthdays in March. So that's a case of, those guys are pro ready, they're NBA ready right now. McCullough needs to come off the two-way. We all know that Kolek is obviously here to stay. By the way, I've been seeing Kolek put in a couple of multiple team trades and all of that, man. It makes me sick to see that because for me, I don't know what more he could show and prove to Jarl, but Kolek is untradeable in my opinion. You're talking about a guy that is improving rapidly every single game, is under cost control for 2 more seasons as well, which is gold to a team that is financially restricted. So you got a bona fide rotation, impactful player under cost control for 2 more seasons, right? And I'm seeing his name being put in trades. I just don't get it. Right. Now, if it's a blockbuster deal and let's say Kolek is needed in the deal to satisfy the other team and make the blockbuster happen, by all means, I get it. But not in no, role player trades and, sideways moves. I'm not parting with Kolek just to bring in another role player. Like, what's the point, man? You got to hold on to your homegrown talent. If it's Yabu or Dardier, I get it. But I'm seeing people put Kolek in trades to get Keon Ellis and Agbaji and that. And I'm like, yeah, look, those guys are okay, but not at the expense of moving on from Tyler. Like, again, I don't know what more he needs to show, but he's untradeable right now. He's a keeper in terms of a role player trade. Um, there's some other things we could do. But for me, it's more of a sideways move. Um, Cat for the Greek, says Johnny Chiba. Look, the Greek thing, man, that ain't happening in season. The Bucks are actually trying to be buyers. They're talking to Sacramento for Zach LaVine. They're talking about some other guys, Ja Morant as well. Looks like they're really trying to, with the East being quite open, they're trying to get another bona fide, player to play with Giannis, and I do think that's going to come to a head in the summer. We'll have to just wait and see, fam. But yeah, unless the Knicks completely slide out of the top 4, then I think they might really look to engage in Milwaukee. But I just don't think we can put together the package that's going to satisfy Milwaukee, fam. I want Giannis as much as Jarl, but think about it from the other side. If you're Milwaukee, man, what's enticing about trading him now for Cat? Like, Cat's not doing anything for them. It's going to be a whole major summer move where it's like 4 teams and picks and players going elsewhere and all of that. So just sit tight, guys. Buckle up and watch this team make a run the way we currently are, but with some tweaks too, with a deeper team. Now, I fancy our chances in a deep playoff run still to get to the finals because we are deeper, fam. And assuming we get an Alvarado, possibly a Keon Ellis, Sadiq Bey, Tari and maybe a fringe rotation player, impactful. I do think we are going to go into the playoffs a lot deeper than we were last season, at the very least. At the bare minimum, we are going to be a team that can change things up in a series. McCullough there for a defensive possession, Diawara in there to muddy things up, Kolek to maybe if you need to close a game out. Mike Brown more flexible, a lot more collaborative than Tibbs, obviously last postseason, man, where he waited until the 4th game to put Mitch into the starting lineup and make a change. So, yeah, Should we be favorites to win the chip? No, I don't think. I think, we're definitely still, got a lot of uphill climbing to do, but I still think we can get out of the East and get to the finals. We have a better chance than last season. Um, and there just doesn't seem to be no traction with the Giannis thing, right? He just ain't, I think he is a little bit spineless in terms of you know, he ain't getting aggressive, man. He needs to James Harden this thing, but he ain't willing to do that. And just, I don't want another repeat of the whole Spider thing where, Spider Mitchell thought he was going to be a Nick, but, again, he was too nice guy. Giannis, again, is too nice guy. You either want to play for the Knicks or you just want to chill, and I get it. But these guys really need to be aggressive, man. If you want to be a New York Knick, make it be known. You got this guy flirting with Miami, you got him flirting with this team, that team. And right now, man, I'm more prepared to just rock with what we have for now and see what plays out. But we need to make some impactful trades, I think, still to flesh out the rest of the squad. Um, New York City kind of agrees. I like this team. I'm fine if there is no trade unless we get in Giannis. Yeah, we got to see with Hart, and the word is that the front office wants to see Hart with Shamit and see if we can pull ourselves out of the mud, fam, and really move forward. Now, I can't really judge us on that Detroit game without Hart, without Shamit. Now, they're not to the level of Jalen Duren and, some of the guys that Tobias Harris with Karis LeVert that Detroit were missing. But we know to our team, we know how important Josh Hart is because he can handle the rock, he defends, he's effective offensively as well, and he just does a whole lot of everything, man. Glenn Jones, salute, brother. Been kind of busy, but I catch your videos late. It's been up and down January, but that's fine as long as we right the ship at the right time. Yeah, look, every chip team faces that adversity, and let's see. I think January and February is always going to be a make or break kind of month, fam. So yeah, great to see you locked in. I'm locked in. We're all locked in, and we're buzzing after this big win in Portland, fam. Um, Nothing like coming together on the road that can really bring this team closer together. Don't forget, they had that team-only meeting after the Detroit loss. They bounced back with a gritty win against the Clips, but then a tough loss in Phoenix, where I think it was more about lack of execution, right? I don't think it was a lack of grit or effort or fight in terms of the loss to Phoenix, fam. It was more so lack of poor execution, and Brunson just got in his own way. Dylan the villain, Devin Booker was getting loose. Royce O'Neal, man, he was killing me. Royce O'Neal was killing us. And so, yeah, Phoenix had a lot of weapons. We just couldn't get the stops when we needed. But it was a close game, 107, 113, I think. But we definitely came to play tonight, You can kind of tell quite early when the Knicks are really locked in. Like I said, I think Cat is a large barometer for this team as well, fam. If Cat's going early, um, then I think we have a lot higher chance. Look, 27 minutes for Cat. I like that. So I'm about to give Mike Brownie shout outs in a minute, and then we'll talk more about the trades and the road ahead, fam. Johnny Chiba says, CT, sorry to say the Knicks played better as a team without Cat on the floor and even without Brunson in terms of ball movement and wing stop involvement. I think it's hard to put a finger on what's sustainable as well, though. I think a lot of games we see swings where it's matchup dependent. Um, I do think when we are playing fast and we can get into our offense quick, that puts the other team under pressure too. If we're constantly having to half court grind and Brunson dribble, 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 like Detroit, like those games against Phoenix, we're not putting the other team under much pressure. But you see us when we're making shots, even if our defense ain't great, like tonight, we continue to put Portland under pressure because they were scoring and we were pushing the break, bang, swish, 3-point, and I think we outgunned them tonight. You know, it was a classic game and we just outgunned Portland. We had too many weapons. But yeah, in the half court set, it's still going to be tough without an extra ball handler. So I want to see my guy Kolek factor in still. Now, I like the 2 minutes from Diawara tonight. His handle looked pretty solid. They were trying to pressure him. There was 2 possessions in a row where Diawara brought the ball up the floor, actually with a defender on him, pressuring him. And with the left hand, Diawara was able to keep his dribble steady and bring it up. So that's something to grow on. I do think, Diawara could be the future of, the kind of Josh Hart role to a bigger degree, on the defensive side. Diawara, I want to see him handle the basketball as well. Now, next up, we got the super chat from my guy, AP, in the building. Salute to AP. Got the streets buzzing. I need to see the team start beating teams over 500, says AP. Appreciate y'all for the super chat contributions, man. Keeping us locked in. And yeah, that's fair. I think teams where, we do play down to some of the opponents, but we do tend to lock in when we do play better teams. But defensively is our biggest challenge, like you said. Can we get stops when we really need? On a night where Mitchell Robinson has 3 blocks, on a night where Mikal Bridges has 4 stocks, that's some positivity. I do think we have the personnel that are capable. We just need to see more of it, fam. We need to see it more. And look, I don't think there's no coincidence. Cat only played 27 minutes. So if you can find a way to, substitute offense for defense and lower Cat's minutes for defensive purposes, if Mitch is playing really well, 25 minutes for Mitch tonight was, this is one of the better versions of Mitch that we got on both sides. I mean, Mitch was huge. So like we know that he can swing games, if he really is on. He can swing those games, fam. So, yeah, so just to finish up on what you're saying right here, pull up the schedule. Which are the next teams coming up above 500? Sacramento and Golden State are both below 500, but I think Phoenix will be a good test. Dallas and Brooklyn, that's not going to be much of a test. Philly, right? So I'm going to see how we bounce back in Philly, fam. Joel Embiid, he punked Mitch last time. And so, we want to see him definitely bounce back as a team as well. So I'm looking at that Philly game and the Phoenix games as the 2 next biggest tests coming up, fam. And then Sacramento again at home. Toronto in the 6 is going to be really important on the 28th. And Portland at home on the 30th as well, as we head into a February, which is kind of some tough games in February, but we do have the All-Star break, so that month is broken up. But we do have Houston, we've got Boston, we've got Philly, we've got Denver, we've got Detroit, we've got Cleveland, Milwaukee. February is going to be a tricky month, but we do have some breathing space with the All-Star break, where anyone not named Brunson, Cat, and maybe OG, everyone else won't be a part of the All-Star break or the All-Star festivities. So they'll probably, get some much-needed rest and some practices in, which is big time too. Johnny Chiba says, not playing Kolek is like cutting off your nose to spite your face. He's auto buckets. Yeah, I was feeling that type of way early, but I'm glad they pulled it out. But I do want to see Kolek play. I love to see him play with Deuce and Hart. I do think Hart should start, but I think Hart should also play off the bench too, and blend his minutes with the bench and with the starters, fam. Because, yeah, he's just a fast break bucket waiting to happen. And look, Hart looks healthy. We know that he was, obviously out for a little bit, but remember in the end of last season when he was dealing with the the ribs, he was dealing with the abdomen, he was dealing with hand. And, when Hart's healthy, you really notice, because he's moving well and, he doesn't avoid contact. He gets after it, which is what we want to see. So, look, we all know the statistical categories that the barometer for a Knicks win. We win the rebounding, 30 plus assists, above 120 points, and we just got it done, fam. Especially on both sides. As you see, the tracker late in the fourth, the Knicks pushed ahead, fam. Now, I want to give OG Anunoby some big love as well, because those two big threes, man, they were big from OG Anunoby, fam. And he shot 4 of 7 from downtown, 57%, right? Remember right after the cup when the team was looking like a cup hangover? OG Anunoby was looking like he could do with a couple of days rest. But over the last two, OG Anunoby's looked more like himself. Fam. Only a steal, no block, but 7 rebounds, plus 10, 24 points is huge, and was running the floor really well. And obviously, we need his 3-point shooting, man. I know so much of us talk about Hart and us missing him. Well, we were missing OG Anunoby shooting, man, because to win and the way the Knicks play, we need OG Anunoby hitting those threes, because that's a huge part of how we play. AP says the NBA gives us too many back-to-backs. Look at that. Look, I think it evens out. It evens out over the course, fam. Yeah. Before we get over the top about the Kolek stuff, let's just clear some of that space. Let's move on from Dardier. Let's move on from Yabu. Let's talk about that now and what a trade could look like. Because yeah, we got Hart back, but let's not forget about our guy, Landry Shamet, fam. Landry Shamet is a more steady version of Clarkson, in my opinion, right? More comfortable defensively, comfortable moving the ball, running around screens, can get downhill, can put the ball on the floor a little bit. Landry Shamet is a dog on defense, and we're going to get him back as well. So Landry Shamet's been cleared for contact. His return is imminent, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be back any time, any minute right now. And for a team that is needing some more shooting and defense, right, he might just fill in some of that void that we could get, that we would get with a Jose Alvarado. And you got McCullough, right? I'm kind of feeling like McCullough, they've given him a little showcase. Not playing much right now either. Huck Porty ain't playing too, and Diawara only on 2 minutes. So first things first, man. I do think we will see Yabu, and we will see Pacome Dardier get moved, right? Hopefully Kolek, McCullough, and the other guys can stick around. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some conversations about Huck Porty as well. If they do want to try to make a more of a win now upgrade for a Nick Richards or someone like that. But I do think Yabu, Dardier, man, are going to be on the next thing smoking, fam. Thank you for your service, and we'll see what we can bring in. Now, in terms of the salaries, right, Keon Ellis salary fits. If you don't want to make the trade too big and you don't want to shake things up too much, you can get a Keon Ellis. You can get an Ayo Dasun move from Chicago. You can get Jose Alvarado. Obviously, that is one of the confirmed names coming out of The Athletic. And Mark Stein reporting, Jake Fisher of the Stein line reporting that the Knicks are in discussions and with Yabu and Dardier. They are both on the block. ladies and gentlemen. So I do think it's going to happen. And look, we might get a player or a couple of players back in that, some fans aren't going to be feeling. There's always going to be a group of fans that are going to be like, yeah, whatever, get me Giannis or nothing. But look, we are shopping in the bargain section, ladies and gentlemen. Like, let's not get it twisted. We ain't got sexy assets right now unless we're moving on from a bigger guy, which I don't think Leon Rose is going to do. So look, whatever we get, it's just going to be maybe addition by subtraction in case of freeing up some spots, getting a couple of guys that can, impact the end of the bench, right? Um, you know, some more veteran win now guys like an Alvarado, someone else. But look, the Sadiq Bays, that kind of thing, Tari Eason, I think is a little more unlikely. So unless we hear some more concrete reporting, what I'm here to say is that expect it to be somewhere along the lines of Alvarado, Keon Ellis, something more minor, which I'm okay with. So I ain't getting my expectations up too high because we are shopping in the bargain section, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, like I already said earlier, Yabusele could be a case of one man's trash is another man's treasure right now, where he might fit another system, especially out in Denver, fam. But yeah, the Pelicans ain't giving us Sadiq Bey, fam. If we're only moving Yabu and Dardier, man, they'll be lucky to have any kind of plus, any significant plus value, right? The Washington protected pick, which is probably going to be 2 early seconds, is kind of the main selling card for some of these other teams, fam. Also, there's the buyout market. There's that buyout market too. So let's see how that plays out. Like, I do think Landry Shamet, getting him back, is as good as any player we're going to get via trade. So you are going to get him back. And then, how much room is there going to be for an Alvarado? Basically Alvarado will probably just take Kolek's spot. But in terms of a wing, right, if you are going to get a Sadiq Bey, you're probably going to have to at least trade Deuce. I'd be shocked if we were able to get a Sadiq Bey without moving on from Deuce or Kolek. You obviously know the pick is going to be in that trade as well. But yeah, in terms of Yabu and in terms of Dardier, they don't have much value around the league right now. So we're looking at a Nick Richards, we're looking at Keon Ellis, some pieces that the other team, isn't really playing right now. Yeah, also Jeremy Sohan. Jeremy Sohan is a name that is kind of polarizing right now. For me, like, he ain't the solution, but I would swap Yabusele and Dardier for Sohan. There was another version of a trade that was talking about the wing in Washington as well, that came out of Houston, fam, too. So y'all know who I'm talking about. Yeah, the wing out of Washington that came via Houston, too. But he's got athleticism, but yeah, he's struggling to find to lock down a regular spot in the league right now. So I would probably take a Jeremy Sohan ahead of him, just because I think this team, just based on the needs fit, if Macau was to miss a game or OG, was to miss, you have a ready kind of like replacement for a defensive player. You've still got Diawara, but obviously, how ready is he right now? That is questionable. So yeah, I would prefer Keon Ellis personally over Sohan or Tari Eason or obviously Sadiq. But if you can get a Jeremy Sohan for just Yabu and Dardier, I would still do it. Another 6'9" switchable forward that can defend. But like I said, he ain't a sexy name, and he ain't swinging the needle, fam. And so, maybe we go back to our guy Ding Pate. You know, I mean, I got to watch him live in action too. I haven't seen a full Westchester game. Obviously, seen the highlights, but yeah, he's just playing really confident right now. But he's only 19. Does need to bulk up, man. He's so thin right now, like Old said earlier. But you know, he's getting into the paint. He's long, 6'8". He'd be automatically one of our better athletes, you know. But yeah, I just like the way he's shooting it right now, man. We saw shades in summer league where he was starting to shoot a lot better, you know, than some of those other guys, you know, that we already see too, fam. So yeah, let me wrap this one up with on Mike Brown, right? So look, got some tough decisions coming up. I like the adjustments from Brown tonight. Obviously, Hart straight back in, no minutes restriction. Got to see Diawara still get some burn, but no Kolek and no McCullough. But that's just the way we're going right now, fam. We do need to clean up our rotation a little bit. Like I said, during that losing streak to 9 or 10. I know there are some fans out there that want to see 11, 12. There's always going to be someone that isn't happy with another guy who's not playing. But we've got to keep it a buck, guys. We're coming to the home straight. We are moving to the second part of the season, which is a championship at all costs, right? And we're really got to stop, you know, flip-flopping with our rotations. We really got to start to lock down with as we get healthy and as Landry is about to come back. We really got to start to lock in on our rotations now. Clarkson could be a guy that you could replace, right? Clarkson, Yabu, or Dardier, in my opinion. But right now, you know, Clarkson's hit and miss, 13 minutes tonight. Me personally, I would just give Kolek his minutes or split. You know, split the two. You see, Macau maybe get his minutes below 30. But look, we are trying to win games as well. So, yeah, you can't be doing too much tweaking, fam, in a situation where we're trying to win these ball games as well. So that is a major factor. But look, first things first, man. Josh Hart is back. Welcome back, Lion Hart. Man, what a performance from Jay Hart as well. We'll see if Landry can go. But 2 days rest. It looks like Landry is going to be back, man, within the next week or so, I would say. Any game in the next week, we could see Landry sham it back. But the Knicks go back to 11 above 500. And some changes are on the horizon. Let's see what Leon Rose can get at the bargain store. Man, Yabusele not playing right now. And I do think a trade is going to happen, right? And get him in a situation where he can play. And a spot where Dardier could maybe get some opportunities as well. Appreciate everyone coming through tonight, man. You guys are on fire. And great to see the Knicks get back to winning ways. Now, let's string 3 wins on the bounce, right? Consistency is key. And appreciate AP for the super chat contribution. And everyone else, man, buzzing with us. Right, definitely feeling the buzz and the love. And I do think this season, man, buckle up, because I do think the Knicks usually finish the season strong as chemistry grows. And I do think Mike Brown, it's important that he really settles on that rotations as everyone gets healthy. So we'll see how that all plays out with some tough games. But let's finish this road trip out strong. And then we get Phoenix, Dallas, and Brooklyn back at home. So those are some games where I expect us to win. And Sacramento, Golden State will be a great opportunity, at least to split, right? Worst case scenario, you got to split these final 2. But back to back, let's see if he does, you know, extend that rotation. I would like to see, especially if we can get Sham God back. But TKO, fam, I feel for you. Tyler, man, I don't want to stymie his growth because he's been playing excellent. But what can you do, man, when Hart returns? You know, maybe you can lower Deuce's minutes a little bit more, you know? 35 minutes for Deuce. That was kind of surprising. So, you know, you could probably look to Deuce's minutes to go down and Clarkson's minutes to maybe go down a little bit. And that's maybe where you could get Tyler Kolek in there for 10 minutes, 10 or 12 minutes. But look, there are a lot of Deuce fans out there as well that would love to see him stick at 35. But tonight wasn't the night. You know, he wasn't shooting great. Just a +1. So we'll see, man. Maybe Deuce's minutes go down a little bit and Tyler, the creator, can get back in there, fam. Now, peace, love, blessings to everyone out here. Peace. We'll see you on the next one.